They refused me an office. I complied. They regretted it. I got my first grown-up job while I was finishing my bachelor's degree. I was just getting started in a highly technical and emerging field. Very few people back then were doing this kind of work, and I seemed to have an aptitude for it, which is probably why I got a job before I had any credentials. The department I was hired for was brand new and had the potential to take customers from other departments, while also generating net new business. Interestingly, the other departments had been offered the opportunity to start the service themselves but refused, even actively trying to prevent it from happening. That's the reason I ended up in a malicious compliance situation. The leaders of all the other departments conspired to prevent me from getting an office. I didn't understand at first because at that age I didn't imagine professionals did petty, immature things. When I realized what was happening, I knew they'd get exposed if I went along with it. So I happily did my job wherever I could find a place, which often ended up being in the mailroom, where lots of people would notice. I hoped maybe the leaders would start to feel guilty or annoyed and change their minds. Or they'd be caught by their bosses. Either way, problem solved for me without a fight. Little did I know how well it would go. I started to be well liked by a lot of the leaders because I helped them with their computers. There was one leader who still inexplicably hated me. I never spoke with him, not even one word, but he continued to insist I did not need an office. I wasn't even the level of a secretary, according to him, which I took to be a dig at my lack of a degree. I heard about him saying that from a friend who was in the meeting when they talked about changing their minds. It's too bad for them they didn't change their minds, because the president came through the mailroom multiple times and finally stopped, clearly annoyed. "Why don't you work in your office?" Quote, "That was my golden moment. I had complied politely with not having an office. I sweetly told the president, I don't have an office." "What? Why not?" Quote, "There isn't room. No space available." According to whom? Quote, "Mr. So-and-so. Quote, "But you've been working here for, what, 3 months? They could have found space for you by now." Ooh, the president was beet red at that point. I just smiled and said my understanding is there is no space. The president literally stomped upstairs to the offices of Mr. So-and-so. I distinctly heard the yelling from downstairs. People outside probably heard it. The president came and brought me upstairs to the conference room where the leaders were all seated. Looking down, there was a pile of keys on the table. I was afraid at that point. Was she having me pick someone's office to take? While that might have been sweet revenge, it wouldn't have been good for my working relationships with any of them. But no, she handed me a key to the conference room and said, "This is your office." She scooped up the rest of the keys, which I learned later were all their copies of the key to the conference room, and said, "Your office is the largest office on campus. Even bigger than mine. Enjoy." And she walked out. That was probably the best drop the mic moment I've ever seen in my life. And the story ends with my compliance not only winning me that office, but all the other leaders, except Mr. So-and-so, becoming great colleagues. Edit follow-up. I mentioned in the comments there was another chapter to this story that I guess sort of puts a bow on it. One sunny day about 6 months later, Mr. So-and-so passed me on the stairs outside the building. I was leaving and said good morning to him. We were the only 2 people, or so I thought. I wouldn't pass by a coworker like that without a polite greeting. I was in my office quietly analyzing some data about an hour later when the once again a furiosely red-faced president stormed into my office. I swear she was 12 feet tall in her anger. She demanded, "What is going on between you and Mr. So-and-so?" Quote, My heart was racing at probably 150 beats per minute and I couldn't comprehend her question. What do you mean? What's going on? I have no idea what you're talking about. I started to imagine she was accusing me of having a relationship with the man. And just, ew. She said she wanted to know why he just said what he said about me. I was flummoxed. I'm sorry. I still have no idea what you're talking about. I never have more than a greeting to say good morning worth of conversation with Mr. So-and-so. I can't think of anything whatsoever he would have to say about me. She told me that my sibling had just burst into her office raging about Mr. So-and-so. Turns out when I walked by him and continued on, the next person he encountered was my sibling. But he didn't know that. We both worked for the same company, but I was married and we had different last names. If he bothered to get to know me at all, he would have known that. He walked right up to my sibling and said, "There goes a bi+C hash with her head up her and." He assumed, I guess, that everyone else hated me too. He barely knew my brother but felt comfortable saying that. So, my brother walked right into the president's office, interrupting a meeting, and repeated what Mr. So-and-so said. The president assumed I was aware, but my brother hadn't gotten to me yet, and I didn't realize just how much Mr. So-and-so hated me. I told the president I genuinely didn't believe it was really about me. It couldn't be because we never spoke. It had to be about what I represented, which was a major change to the organization. She walked to his office. Then more yelling ensued. Pretty soon they were back in my office. He apologized and I repeated what I told the president, that I didn't believe it was really about me. Mr. So-and-so agreed. Later on I had a project with him and he started to trust me. We ended up being able to work together with no further issues. I don't know if I'd be calling any of them leaders. Leadership and management are two very different things. I didn't imagine professionals did petty, immature things. This line had me in stitches. I used to believe the same thing. Then I had the pleasure of watching two SVPs having a fistfight in the hallway over something stupid. Thanks for the edit. It shows that your persistence in being a good person continued to pay dividends. Reminds me of when I first started out. One of my jobs was to ask other trades for things if we needed to borrow something. Eventually, I realized I was the only one ever sent. So I asked why. Boss. Because no one ever says no to you. Me. Why would they? Quote. Boss. Exactly. Now go. Quote. Apparently, I was nice to everyone, and if I borrowed something, I made sure it got back. That guy sounds like a jerk. He probably has a daughter with friends named Cheerleader. What's her face? And the ugly one. I'm in a very similar situation as yours. I was hired in as an advisor in an aviation maintenance organization. Due to the way the contract was written, I came in making more than nearly everyone else. Then my contract expired, but I was picked up by a different company with a 67% increase in pay over the previous contract. Same job, I park in the same spot and sit in the same job. Now nearly everyone there understands that it's a case of right place at the right time. Except for that one guy. He tries to undermine me at every turn. Fortunately, I have over 20 years of experience in this particular situation, so there is never any way for him to fault my performance. When required, I give him as much information as he needs to do his job, and I do it with a smile. Yet he bad-mouths me behind my back. Dude, you don't even know me. Why the hate? I have a great working relationship with everyone else, and we all even socialize together often. Edit. Typos. I love every bit of this story. Did you stay with the company in the office a while? Wow. What's it like having an employer who takes your side when a superior is bullying you? Your next words should have been, "Get out of my office." Very nice! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Screw that other person. Open mouth face grimace flushed. Heart the president's response though. Wow. Cheers to that president who not only got you an office but compensated for the others not making space for you too. What kind of work were you doing that you could work anywhere? Beautiful. I love it. Patience pays off in surprising ways sometimes. This gave me a raging boner. You may want to include in the first 2 paragraphs that your sibling also worked there. When you said, sibling, it came out of nowhere and was kind of confusing to read. This is a great story and reads like a complete work of fiction. Or perhaps just a greatly exaggerated version of events. That was seriously very adult of you. Kudos. This is stolen. A repost. I've read this before. Are you Dwight Schrute? In what universe can someone walk in and interrupt the meeting the president is having to discuss this non-business issue? What if the president was with clients? That is completely unprofessional. Yes, the comment isn't kind, but this isn't high school, this is a corporate setting. The complaint would be filed with HR for them to deal with. There are departments for this. The president has more important things like running a business to think of than getting mixed up in he said, she said. Also, you got the largest meeting room for an office? So where are all the meetings being held now?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.